Gotta love a cup of joe in the morning. Right, buddy? Hey everyone, welcome to the video. And today, Caffeine Charlie and I are going to talk about caffeine's half-life. Now, as you can probably tell, he's a little bit stressed out right now. He's had a bit too much caffeine, so I'm going to be doing most of the talking and we'll let Charlie just chill out a bit. So I'm going to talk through these points here, and hopefully by the end of the video, you'll have a bit more understanding about caffeine's half-life. So starting with point number one, we have adenosine receptors. So as you may or may not know, caffeine works on the adenosine receptors in our body. So caffeine works by binding to these receptors and blocking your adenosine from working. So you can imagine normally the adenosine will bind to these receptors and it will have its inhibitory effect. So it kind of slow you down, and adenosine is going to increase through the day. So it naturally kind of helps you slow down and then obviously build you up and gets you ready for bed. But if you take caffeine, it's going to block these adenosine receptors so the adenosine can't get in. So this indirectly causes a stimulating effect. So there will be a release of certain neurotransmitters such as adrenaline and dopamine, and you're basically going to feel a lot more stimulated. Now the next thing is half-life. So defining half-life. Half-life is the amount of time it takes for half of a substance to be basically removed from your body. So for example, with caffeine, its average half-life is 4 to 6 hours. Let's say for this example, it's 6 hours. So let's say you have 100 milligrams of caffeine, maybe roughly what's in a coffee. Let's say you have that at 9 a.m. in the morning. Well, 6 hours later, so that'd be roughly 3 p.m., you're going to have half of that caffeine left in your system. You're going to have 50 milligrams. And then in another 6 hours, what would that be? I guess 9 p.m., you're going to have half again. So it'd be half of 50 milligrams. So it'd be 25 milligrams left in your system. So you can see that with certain time frames, it just halves and halves and halves. And that's basically how it's excreted, or at least a pattern of excretion. Now this varies massively, and there's a big genetic component to this. So some people's caffeine half-life is 1.5 hours, and it can go all the way up to 9.5 hours. So that's just kind of the rough variation. Obviously, you might be, I don't know, in that range or slightly out if you're more of an extreme example, but that is the general variation. So you can imagine if your half-life of caffeine is 1.5 hours, you know, after 3 hours, you're going to have a quarter of the amount of caffeine in your system. And if you're a poor soul, probably like me, you have a much longer half-life excretion. So you can imagine caffeine is going to affect these people with a shorter half-life less because they get rid of it faster. And if you're very sensitive to caffeine, you might have quite a high half-life. So it's hard for your body to get rid of it out of your system. And again, this is a big genetic thing. The gene most responsible from what they found is the CYP1A2 gene. So this gene's activity basically strongly determines how quickly you're going to excrete caffeine or the half-life of caffeine in your system. So just remember to enjoy caffeine responsibly, think about your own tolerances, and don't end up like Caffeine Charlie. Thanks for watching.